Good morning. So my name's Luca. I'm an entrepreneur, been an entrepreneur for the past 5 years. Now it's time to reinvent myself. This year, 2021, I'm going to be launching, 2 or 3 startups. In the meantime, I'm interviewing a number of Malta's entrepreneurs and CEOs. I want to get to know them better, get to know their life story. There's no magic formula for success that anybody can follow. This morning, I met up with Julian who is a co-founder of Altaro software that has just been acquired by Hornet Security. It was a super interesting discussion, and I'm really looking forward to the actual interview, which is going to be in about a week or two, and we'll see you over there. Okay, so we're here in Liha. We're going to meet up with Julian from Altaro software. He's very kindly invited us over to his house. Okay, hey guys, welcome to Fuck Ups and Success, a web series where we're meeting entrepreneurs from Malta and we're learning all about their life story, the companies they've built, what kind of challenges they've met along the way, and how they've overcome many of these obstacles. Today, we're meeting with Julian Patros. He's one of the co-founders of Altaro Software, a company that has 50,000 customers in over 121 countries. Hi Julian, how's it going?
Hi Luca, thank you for having me.
Shay Piashir. Before you got started with Altaro, you also had a smaller enterprise which was called Prisma Technologies. Yeah. To begin off with, would you like to tell us the story of how this came about?
Sure. To start off with, first of all, it's a long story, right? We started out the first time more than 12 years ago, so a lot has happened, right? So when you see it in a like kind of fast forward, as we're probably going to do, it might seem more exciting than it actually was. Things happen much slower usually. And what I have is not a kind of recipe or like a kind of surefire way of achieving a successful result. So what I have is the story. Admittedly, it's specific to a software company, but I think looking back, starting a business shouldn't be as daunting as it feels in the very beginning. So maybe the story will inspire some people who are in the same position that we were some time back to kind of take the leap. Well, so yeah, as you said, we started off with a previous company, in my case at least. The other company was a very traditional type of company. We focused. It was a software company as well, but we focused mainly on the local market. And in the beginning, how it is a startup. You're an army of one, basically. So you have to do everything. You have to do. In my case, I used to do the engineering and the sales, the finance, and cleaning up everything. So. And
you were 2 people involved in this, right?
Simon and myself started off in a small office. And
where was the office?
It was in Gżira. I mean, we were pretty much squatting in someone else's office at the time, but that's how we started out. When we started, it was I think 2005, 2006, something like that. So quite a while ago. And
that's when you had started Prisma, and then when Altaro, when was that? When did that?
Altaro started in 2009.
2009. So leading up to starting Altaro, would you say the experience of just getting started helped you to actually form new knowledge that served you in the next thing?
Yeah. So with Prisma, there were a lot of mistakes that were made. That at the time it didn't feel like there were mistakes we could learn from, but obviously in hindsight there was a lot
Were they technical things or more managerial?
No, let me give you an example. For example, as I said, you have to do everything, right? So like sales was one of the things I needed to do. And we was focusing on the local market. Now, if there's one thing I'm not good at, it's sales. My colleague Simon used to take the piss out of me that even if someone really wants to buy the product, I'd be the one to actually convince him not to. So it was painful, for me. And one of the things I used to do is like call a company like out of the blue and ask for the IT guy, And when they used to tell me like he's not here, I used to be like, okay, thank God. In my mind, so it was that bad. And I remember one time I got the bright idea of like having a glass of wine before I start all these sales calls, to feel like more like warm and fuzzy inside and like get more salesy. But anyway.
Did that help?
Let's put it this way: 0 sales were made that day, and I did not try it again. Like, I just fell asleep basically.
But I guess when you're getting an experience for different roles, even if they're not the best thing you're doing, maybe it also helps to understand somebody else who's doing that role down the line.
Exactly. Yes. Like it's all a matter of like recognizing strengths in other people. When you try to do it yourself, like where you need talent, where and you can spot it in other people when you fail to do it yourself. And also, we have a kind of motto in our company, and it's just like if each of us hires someone who's bigger than ourselves, we'll be a company of giants, And what it means really is that don't try and do everything perfectly yourself, and like get people who know how to do things better than what you're good at, and delegate, and overall the company will grow in a much better trajectory. So.
Was that kind of mindset instilled from day one at Altaro?
At Altaro, yes. It obviously we didn't start hiring people from day one, but yes, it was always the mindset.
Yeah, you actually come from a background. You've got a BSc in chemistry, biology, and biotech from the University of Malta, and also an engineering master's or degree.
I'm a bit of an indecisive person, as you figured out.
Yeah, so from Sunderland. How was it like growing up? So what kind of education path and career did you have in mind? And then like how did things change along the way?
I did not have a career in mind until quite late, and I'm still not even 100% sure now. So, but that's an advantage in a way, like some people, know exactly what they're going to do when they're 12 years old, right? Or even younger. And because they have an image in their head, and, that's exactly how they picture their life. And I mean, it works out sometimes for some people, they know already that they're good at they're prodigies in certain areas. But I wasn't like that, I was, as I said, indecisive, and in a way it enabled me to try different things and explore, and like one thing leads to another kind of thing, and meet more people, and until my sort of mid-20s I was still shifting into different careers, and learning as I go along. And I think I was always quite technically minded, so over time, I gravitated towards the more technical careers, and that's what led me, to starting up a software startup.
That was. Did you have previous experience in software or
no?
So was it daunting at first?
I remember when we got our first PC when I was like 10 years old. I remember like trying to write code and
what was Malta like back then? I mean, I know it from this perspective where things I think are a bit more modernized, but maybe 12, 13 years ago, it was a bit of a different marketplace.
Yeah, I was about 30 years ago, by the way. So when I was 10 years old, 34 years ago. So no, but in the interim, I did not really look out for software. In fact, as you rightly pointed out, I was into biology for a time, and sort of the life sciences, and I still find that super interesting, but in Malta at the time there wasn't really a biotech industry, and even today, I mean, although it's improved a lot and there are many more opportunities. It was not like that in the early 90s. So I always used to love tinkering with things and dismantling stuff and putting it back together.
Trying to figure out how things work.
And software is software is like a machine. At the end of the day, it's like moving parts that are written in lines of code, basically. So it's another type of machine that always got me interested. So over time, I think there's something about software which is a kind of big advantage, because when you're selling software, it's first of all, there's a very low barrier to entry. All you need is a PC. You don't need any equipment or manufacturing plants or or machinery. All you need is a PC and you're up and running. And also in the more recent years, software is something that's easier to sell. All you're selling is a license key, and you can be selling it to anyone, anywhere in the world. So it was like I always spotted that kind of low barrier to entry and like a way how to develop something cool, some commercialize or start something new and invent something new. I don't know.
Yeah. No, before I ask you more about Altaro, in 1998. You were at the lab of molecular genetics. What was going on there at the time?
Well, before engineering, I did a degree in biology and chemistry. Right? It was like something kind of I chose that by default more than anything, because I had done sciences at school, and it was like the most interesting thing to do at the time. And
was this a job? Or was it?
It was, yeah. I worked over there as a job straight after my degree in biology and chemistry. So it was like kind of a bit of continuation. Also, it was at university, so it was a kind of an excuse to remain at university a bit longer, So, but it was a very interesting place to work. But I think software always had a bit of a gravitational pull towards me. So over time. I still wonder what would have happened if I, kept at it, and but anyway, we'll never know.
Moving on to Altaro and a bit about how that got started. Where did the initial idea come from?
While we were working at Prisma, Simon and I, as I was saying before, like sales was. Painful, and also if you manage to get a sale, like the sales cycle is slow. You have to send invoices and wait for the people to pay you. Sometimes they don't. You have to follow up, lots of phone calls, and we said like there has to be a better way of doing this, and something clicked at one point, in the sense that we realized like there's the internet nowadays is the land of opportunity, right? In the same way that people in the 19th and 20th centuries used to see the US as the land of opportunity, the ultimate, goal. Today, you don't need. You can be geographically independent, and the internet can get you an instant global market, right? So we said this is the way to do. We're doing it wrong, right? And we were lucky to meet the two other co-founders, which are David and Steve, who had been through this. The same process, entrepreneur to exits process. They had seen it happening in the previous company, so we kind of met at the right time, and we had like the same exact mindset. And we were lucky that, and by the way, a lot of things that happened you can put down to sheer luck, So one thing we were lucky with was that. Those good chemistry, because 4 co-founders is a hell of a lot of co-founders for any company. So we're lucky that we got on with each other. We became good friends. We had a good support network around us, like our wives or girlfriends at the time were encouraging us to take the step, because it's not easy, to start something totally brand new with zero revenue. So all 4 of us were in the same kind of situation. We used to argue a lot. But we used to argue about the right things, We used to argue about the product. constructive arguing, so, and that usually it also helps with bonding, and we basically became, like a band of brothers. So in that sense, we're very, very lucky, other people might not have lasted the 12 years. I mean, we still get on each other's nerves a lot of the time, especially after this becomes like a marriage, but the relationship is a very healthy one between us. So that's very lucky.
So do you think founders need to argue about the right things at the right times?
Yes, that's how things change, right? If there's too much, I don't know what you call it, treading on thin ice, or people, it's all about, I think, it's all about egos, right? If any one of the group has a bit of too much of an ego, or more than one person has a bit of an ego, then it's a recipe for disaster. It's not going to last long, right? We happened, to there's a good spirit of one-upmanship, in the sense that, if someone is right about something, you want to prove him wrong, and especially about the technical stuff, but there aren't any big egos, because that's, I think, what would ruin any startup, and when people start thinking they're better than others, that each one of us has his key strengths, and we accept that the others are stronger at certain things than us, and vice versa, so the fact that we were adults about it.
So of course, when you're running a business, a lot of things can go right. Evidently, a lot of things did go right, but also a lot of things can go wrong. Would you like to maybe enlighten us about what went right, what went wrong?
Okay, so let's start with the right, because that's easier, probably.
Good news first.
I can think of about 2 or 3 things that we did right. I think the first thing we did right is we decided to go as a result of my previous experience and Simon's previous experience, and also David and Steve's previous experience with the previous company. We knew that from day one we're going to be an international company, selling globally, right? It wasn't easy, it was daunting. Obviously, we were in a basement in San Juan, but that was the aim. It was non-negotiable. So we set out with that mindset, and I see a lot of companies in Malta that start by saying I have this idea, let me develop this website or whatever and see how it goes in Malta first. And then if it does well, we'll take it international. But that never works, because 2 reasons, basically. One, you might never get enough critical mass locally, to decipher whether this was a success or not. It is difficult to measure, with such a small market.
That's interesting you say that, because very often I hear people talk about Malta as a prototype island, and we try to attract companies here to actually test out in Malta.
Yeah, but the business models of developing something or taking something to market for a local market, which is the Maltese. I mean, obviously there are businesses that make sense for the local market, right? There are countless examples. But when it comes to software specifically, which is what we did, that is the wrong mindset to take, because the business models you need to take for a local market and an international market are totally different. You're either going to do one or you're going to do the other. If you're going to do one with the intention of doing another, you're going to do neither.
So could it be that if you get market fit for Malta, it's not necessarily something that's scalable?
Yes, and we experienced this firsthand. We tried something locally first, and then when we decided to do something totally different and go on, and sell on the internet, basically. We had to start from scratch, So and many companies either don't recognize this, or they recognize it too late, or they feel that they're in too deep at that point, and it's very difficult. Even there's a certain amount of pride, so it's difficult to switch and admit that you're wrong.
So when you're starting out a business and you want to go international first, what are the first things people should be thinking about?
Definitely don't get on the phone and start calling local companies, So that's the first thing. So you need a good web presence. You need to hustle basically online. It's very hard. It takes time. But
who were the first customers you actually came across?
Well, we kind of, our first product was a simple backup product, and we started, trying to get a review from this magazine or a review from the site, and the site would have, its own followers and or like its customers, and you start seeing sales trickling in.
So you kind of had to bootstrap in the start.
Yeah, we were totally bootstrapped, so like there's no marketing budget was.
From setting out day one and saying, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to go global. How long did it take to go from, I don't know, signing an agreement between the co-founders to pushing out the first product?
We did not sign any agreements. It was so like the chemistry was so much there that, and we were so focused on let's get this done that we found this semi-basement. Set up a couple of second-hand desks, sat down, laptops, and let's get this done. There's no time for agreements. There's no time for anything. There's no time to spend any money. The thing is, in the beginning, you're really, really trying to build your brand awareness, and that is the only way. You kind of get a foothold. There's a lot of noise on the internet. Behind the screen, there's every video, every movie, every book ever written, so you're out there competing for people's attention, and you can't, if you're going to start out with like planning agreements between, I don't think, because then what happens, like lawyers come in and it becomes super complicated. And
okay, but just from the inception of the concept to taking your first product out, what was the timeline for that?
When we met all together for the first time, we already had a kind of prototype, Simon and I had started a prototype previously, and David and Steve already were looking for something like this, to take to market, and we hit the ground running kind of already between us with something ready. Our first sale came months later, until we actually finished it, polished it, and got the first kind of reviews lined up, and I don't know, it's one thing that you need to keep in mind is brand awareness takes time on the internet, and that's another thing we did really well. Our competitors were, sometimes we'd go to a conference, for example, the main competitors have like the airports draped in the corporate colors, adverts everywhere, there'd be a Lamborghini outside waiting to take customers to the conference, and we can't compete with that. When we've seen these things, we felt very small. But what we did do is like we kind of started creating this educational content online, and giving information with fundamental value for other people, not necessarily related to our products. On the contrary, totally unrelated to our products, like related to technology in general, and that look up how to do something on Windows, for example, and that find our educational content or our webinars or our blogs and ebooks and stuff like that. And that's something we call inbound marketing, right? And that's you building slowly, very, very slowly over, it takes years. You build a kind of following, right? It's very difficult to measure how that translates into sales, right? Because someone who's encountered you on the internet in that way 2 years ago might buy, now, and you wouldn't have no clue that something you did 2 years ago led to the sale today. But once you're there, it's very difficult to displace you. Once you have this, this like grassroots following, and even if your competitors, once they realize what you've done, it's very difficult to just like spend a week and do the same thing, because you don't just build a following like that overnight. So that's one thing that we did well in terms of like creating awareness online and building our brand from the bottom up, rather than like forcing it down with fancy glitzy stuff. So that's the way we did it.
And that's so how was it? So a kind of an organic growth with this content marketing, this educational and inbound marketing strategy. That obviously takes time, as you mentioned. But after 2-3 years, what kind of point were you at? Were you still U4? Had you grown?
No, we spent, I think, the first 2 or 3 years, just the four of us. And there were times where it was not looking very promising. There was some heartbreaking moments, basically. But again, the chemistry between us was there, so we decided to plow through. And then at one point, we decided to change the product line a bit, and this is something important. You need to be able to pivot. Pivot means like you adjust and your position, your market position, maybe take a step back and readjust your direction. In the same way, like we went from being local only, in my case, to starting Altaro. That's like pivoting between one company and another. You should be ready to pivot between within the same company, right? And at one point we did that, and we started getting a lot of traction with one of the new products, right? And that's something as well that we did right, something else, which is not be too emotionally attached to the work you've already done, and be ready to admit that wasn't such a good idea and take a step back, have to do some things all over again, but in a better way.
The decision process for that, was that something that you'd sit down just you four and think about, or would you reach out to...
Yeah, more or less. There'd be some fighting, some arguing, then, I don't know. It's not a one conversation thing, but your question was how did we grow, right? So once we, we pivoted basically from business to B2C model, which is selling to customers, to end customers, like me and you and your mom or my mom, to businesses, selling to companies. And once we realized that we need to focus 100% on selling business to business, then things started taking off. And by 2012, we started employing people. Our revenue started doubling every year on year, consistently. And by 2020, we're around 120 employees worldwide, with about 4 or 5 offices in different countries. So yeah,
as you grow, you're taking on a lot of new people. What kind of strategy did you guys have when it came to recruitment?
Good question. So we're not a punch clock company, right? We base everything on trust, and we believe that when you treat people as adults, they'll feel much more engaged, and it will lead to much better results. Okay, so when you trust people and everything is based on results, we found that it creates a bit of more of a buzz, and that attracts other people to the company. We're also a flat structure. People who join from day one can join meetings at pretty much all levels. So we're not some kind of hierarchical structure where you just receive a list of stuff to do and you don't know where it's going. Or you can see your work being implemented and being sent out to the customers in very short time frames. People ask me about recruitment. As of people ask me about culture. This is the word, what's your company culture? Especially with software startups, that's the thing. People seem to think like is the key to everything, in terms of recruitment. But culture is not a kind of, it's not a management decision. It's a result. You don't instill a culture in a company by, I don't know, buying bean bags and forcing people to sit on them, the typical Silicon Valley type of image that people have. Or I don't know, if you do yoga classes, or you allow people to get their cat to work or whatever, that's not culture, That's good for people who like yoga or people who like cats, but what culture is the core values that drive the company forward, right? And you'd be surprised. It's when you're recruiting people, you don't look out for people that fit a certain mold that you have in your head. Okay, like that people that dress the same or people that talk the same. You have to look for a certain attitude in people, and we have people of all shapes and sizes. And I mean, some people are so different that probably classify as different species, but people surprise you. They get on really well together, and what binds them is the common goal and the common drive which are the similar values to bring, they love the company, they have that can-do attitude. And that is what culture is to us, and sometimes you make mistakes, right? Recruitment isn't easy. There will be mistakes, and there's no way you can know that about those mistakes during an interview, for example. It sometimes takes months and years. But overall, we built a really, really great team, and the team is what makes the company ultimately, people.
I guess at this point, with COVID and everything, it must be also something that you missing meeting up with colleagues at not just at the office, but also informally. And did that play an important part of the team element?
Yes. There was a very this family environment at work,
In fact, family, you mentioned that all of your wives were very important in supporting you all. At times, it kind of feels like growing a startup is like raising a child. You recently had a kid a few years ago.
Yeah, I have three.
You have three kids. So, would you compare it in any way?
Yes. Yes and no, obviously, but it is. It takes the same amount of time, I guess, and it feels like it's your baby as well, So it's hard to let go of certain things, especially as the company is growing. It feels like your kid is going to college, kind of, or like leaving the nest. But yes, I mean, you need a really good support network, especially in the early years. Family and friends around you.
Altaro was recently acquired by Hornet Security. That's a major milestone for any company. Was there any kind of strategy or vision to working towards that? How did it come about?
Yeah, so when we started out in the very beginning, 12 years ago, it was always kind of there as an ultimate possible goal, like in the very, very distant future, it might be, it might happen. But especially with Steve and David, two of the co-founders, they had been in a company where they saw these things happen, with their own eyes, and they in my mind, it was like, I knew that kind of it's a possible goal, to get acquired and exit the company. I mean, we're still in the company, but hand it over to someone who knows what the hell they're doing at some point. But I didn't really believe it, kind of. So it seemed like a pipe dream in a way. But as we grew and grew, it started attracting a lot of attention, even from other international companies. People are looking at what's happening. They're seeing the growth in it. They're seeing the success. And it's very difficult. It's a very difficult thing to go through because, as I said before, like there's a big, feeling of the family environment, and we're one team together. There's a very tight cohesion between us. So something like this can make a lot of the team members, in a way, feel to a certain extent, betrayed, like we're kind of selling out. But on the contrary, I think the company has grown so much that it could be that it's a betrayal if we try and hold on too long, because if we're in uncharted territory, and no one of us has run a company with that type of size. So one mistake due to inexperience can have catastrophic consequences, and affect people's lives. So it would have been a betrayal, kind of, if we tried to hold on for too long. So this was the next natural step, and we're very careful about it. There are some horror stories that maybe you would have heard of acquisitions where everyone gets sent home and that everyone just they just cash cow the company basically, and I'm pretty sure there were offers on those lines over the years, but we're very careful, and in fact it took quite long because we're very careful whom we did this type of transaction with, because we wanted them to want to grow the company even more. In fact, they want to keep all the team on board and grow it even further, including us co-founders. So At this point, I think it feels natural to hand over the reins to someone who's done it before and who knows, what the next steps should actually be, more than just guessing. So we feel safer now having done this.
How are things looking for 2021?
Well, it's still weird times, right? The office is still closed pretty much. We're just 4 people coming in and out, where usually it's like a hustle and bustle every day, So it feels a bit sad, going to the office and seeing all those empty desks. But, well, it seems like things are getting back to normal. Last August, we were kind of thinking about reopening again, and then like everything went back to square one. So things are looking... It's exciting because we have a whole new, future ahead of us in terms of a much bigger family now. But I'm hoping that, the offices will be open again soon and we'll be able to start doing, like our usual events. And
synergy with Horn, it's been good?
Yes, they are. I mean, they are pretty much our photocopy, like they are a German company. So and when we met them the first time, it became almost a running joke, like now, they're our photocopy, our German Altaro, So it was good to see, and that gave us even more confidence that this was the right move to do. And I think they are the ones who's going to take this company to the next level.
Any final advice for other entrepreneurs, other people interested in the industry?
Sure. I don't have all the answers, right? I don't even have a lot of answers. Might have some answers. From my experience, one of the things I learned is that, like when you start, especially a technology company, right, you're going to need a lot of smart people. But, brains only get you to a certain level. Intelligence isn't everything. What you really need is grit, perseverance, not giving up, the will to pay attention to the detail and, like not let go basically of problems and not take the easy way out, not take the path of least resistance. And the people who do that are like the people you want, right? And so grit is important. Also, people who are starting out now, there's something, like I've seen happening, and I've seen people who are kind of a solution in search of a problem. You have this idea that you want to start something. You want to start a website, you want to be your own boss, you want to be financially independent, but you don't know what you're going to do. These things, usually, it might work, but usually these things fizzle out after some time. What you need to do is you need to feel a pain point. You need to, feel something that customers need. And when you feel it yourself, and then you can really address that problem. And usually the success happens in that direction rather than the opposite direction. I don't know. Other advice? Ignore people. I mean, whatever you do, you're always going to have your detractors, right? If you're going to decide to do A, you're going to find people who say, like, don't do A, do B. And then if you decide to do B, people are going to say, like, don't do B, do C. So I know it feels like cliche, like blah, 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 ignore, don't listen to what people say, follow your passion or whatever. But in this case, it's a cliche for a reason, maybe, because if you listen to everyone, you're gonna get confused, and you're gonna be instilled with so much doubt that you give up before you even start. So you need to follow your gut and just go with it. Just get started. If it's software, open your laptop and start. Don't do some like fancy business plans and involve lawyers and accountants from day one, because it's going to be so top heavy from day one that it's not going to go anywhere. And the trick is just to take the bull by the horns and get started, right? Also, some like last piece of advice, just man up and suck it up, or put your nose to the grindstone, whatever you want to call it. No one wants to listen to you moaning, right? Nobody cares, really. So just just start getting things done. But most of all, you need to be having fun, right? If you're not having fun, then none of the rest is worth it.
Okay, thanks. That's all we have time for today. We just had our interview with Julian Patros from Altaro Software, a man with his head on his shoulders and his feet on the ground. He's gone through the whole process of bootstrapping, and we hope to see more companies that take that globalized mindset and think of all of the opportunities that they can access through software and the internet.
Thank you.
Thanks and good night.